this is Andre. Loop windowing is taking an initial loop, reducing the loop down to a smaller length, and then looping smaller portions of the original loop within that new shorter loop size. David Torn is the first person I heard use the term back in the late 90s or very early 2000s. The earliest appearance of windowing in a looping device was with the Echoplex Digital Pro, where it originally showed up as a software bug. Windowing is a pretty obscure concept and has only appeared in a few loopers over the years, but it's a hugely powerful and flexible technique that can open up all kinds of possibilities. I recently borrowed an Empress Zoia from Ken Luke, one of my Patreon supporters, so that I could spend some time investigating it for myself, and I was very pleasantly surprised to find that the Zoia's stock looper module can do windowing, so this video is going to explore those possibilities. Now here's an important disclaimer. I am very much a newcomer to the Zoia, and this video should be taken as an example of applying the windowing concept in a very basic sense using just the standard looper module. The Zoia is a modular audio environment with many different types of modules to work with, and there are countless Zoia patches floating around that implement looping in all kinds of different and creative ways. This video is definitely not intended as a comprehensive look at all of the looping functionality available in the Zoia. It's just looking at the stock looper module on its own without adding any other sound or control elements to the signal path and exploring loop windowing using just that basic foundation. Alright, on the Zoia, when you load a patch, each of these buttons represents either a different module or a different set of parameters for a module. So in this particular array, I programmed a very basic patch using just the stock looper module. That's the audio input, that's the audio output, and this is the looper input, and then all these other buttons here are looper controls. So the first looper parameter we're going to talk about is the record button. So now we're recording a loop, push it again, that closes the loop, and now we're overdubbing. All right, so now we're just playing. This restarts the loop from the beginning. This stops and starts playback. This lets you adjust pitch. We'll talk about that eventually. This lets you change the start position. This is one of the most important parameters of windowing. This lets you change the loop length, which is the other most important parameter. That reverses playback. And that lets you reset, basically erase the loop. So those are all the functions that the stock Zoia looper has built into it. So let's record something new from the beginning. Overdub a little bit. And let's reverse it to see how that sounds. Sure. All right, so when we talk about windowing, what we're doing is taking a smaller section of the original loop and then moving it around. So let's start with the start point, no pun intended. And you'll see as I move this dial, the start point is currently on the far left-hand side, and you can see now it's moving to the right. And that's changing where the loop starts playing back. So you can hear that the stuff at the beginning of the loop isn't getting heard anymore. And as we move the start point further over, we're starting at a later point in the loop, and we're also effectively shortening the length of the loop because the start point is getting closer to the end. If we move it all the way to the end, then you get that super short granular thing. we can bring it all the way back to the original start point like this. Now the length control works the other way. The start position works from the beginning of the loop and moves forwards. The length control basically starts from the end of the loop and works backwards. So now if we adjust the length control, now you can see we're moving towards the beginning of the loop, and again we're shortening the length, but this time we're working from the end point back. And again, you can get very short lengths. All right, let's sit with that for right now. Now, by keeping the length at that value but changing the start point, we're effectively windowing. So I'm going to move the start point. And you can hear that the length of the loop, the window, is staying the same. But as we move the start point now, the window is scanning through a slightly different part of the loop. So you can think of this horizontal line as the entire loop length. And the start point is basically moving where the window begins. And the length point is how long the window is. So if we increase the length a little bit, now we've increased the window, we can hear a larger chunk of the loop. And now if we change the start position, we're not changing the length of the window, we're just changing where the window is playing from. Reverse, just for fun. Nah. All right. So everything we've been doing so far has involved the onboard controls for the Zoia. I also have the start and end points mapped to MIDI control. This knob is mapped to the start point. And you can see as I move this around, it brings us to different points within the loop. This knob is mapped to the loop length. That's basically giving us the size of the window. So you can have a very small window and then change the start point. And window through it in very tiny fragments. I'm going to increase the size of the window a little bit. You're not going to see the display because I'm keeping the display on the start point, but you can hear now the loop length is expanding. So I'm adjusting the continuous controller for the loop length, which is increasing the size of the window. Now I'm going to leave the window size the same and change the start point. And it sounds like the length is changing because we're starting to run up against the distance between the start point and the end point. So let's try and work backwards. All right. Where'd it go? There it is. Sometimes it takes a second to think about it. I know how it feels. All right. So on these buttons, this top row is preset values for the start point. So instead of having the full 0 to 127 range that you have on a rotary encoder, This top row is set to the same continuous controller number as that, but they're just sending fixed values. So you'll see as I push these different buttons, it's going to randomly jump to different points. And again, sometimes it takes a second before the window kicks in, which I think is really cool. There it goes. That's the very end. That's the very beginning. And again, these are just set to values, a single value somewhere between 0 and 127. So they basically represent different percentage points within the loop. Now this bottom row is doing the same basic idea, except that this is sending static continuous controller commands for the controller assigned to length. So I'm going to change the display so we can see what's going on. So on the left-hand side, you get the very short length. As we start working our way left to right, the lengths get longer. So now we're just going to play around with changing the start point on the top row and the overall length of the window on the bottom row. And now we're going to scroll around using the rotary encoders. So now we have a very short window length. Now we're just changing the start point. So we're moving a fixed window length around to different spots in the loop. And now we're going to increase the size of the window. And now we're moving the start point around, changing the length as well. This is just scrubbing back and forth along the same general spot. And let's put the length back to normal. Now, when you have a shorter window length and you add new content, through overdubbing in this case, the overdub is only going to cover the length of the window. So I'm moving the window, I'm trying to find a relatively quiet spot in the loop. Sure. So So now I'm just going to overdub some stuff in that window. Turn off overdub, and now if we change the length, and you can hear the overdub is only in that spot where the previous window was. So let's do this. Gonna get very short window lengths. I'm gonna overdub different stuff. Move the window point. Shorten the window a little bit. And now, you can hear all those little short bursts are from where we overdubbed using very small windows. Let's do a little more of that. Overdub again. There we go. And let's zoom out and see what we've got. Yeah. So all those glitchy little short bursts of sound are from overdubbing within a very short window length. Let's reverse that. Now let's shorten the window again. I want to see what I'm doing here, make life a little easier for me. Okay, that's a short length. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to reset the loop, which that has erased the previous loop. We're going to start recording new stuff in a new tonal center. And what happened? What happened was that even though we erased the audio content of the previous loop, the window size stayed the same. So we recorded everything that I just played between the two button presses of record and switching to overdub. But right now we're only hearing a small window of it. That's the same window length that was left over from the previous loop. So now, if we move the start point to the beginning, and move the length all the way over, now we'll hear the whole thing that I played. There it is. Let's bring the window size very low. Let's do that one more time. Reset. Record something new. So now we still have the very short window. If I overdub right now, it's just going to overdub within that very tiny window size. Turn overdub off. And now Let's bring the start point. Oh, start point is all the way over there. So now we're going to increase the length. And we're going to start hearing the whole 6.3 second loop that I recorded. And you only get that tiny little fragment of those overdubs. Let's shorten the window length so we can hear that a little more clearly. There it is. Now let's move the window location. Overdub some more stuff there. Move the window again. And we're just moving the window to different points. And now let's hear what we've got. This is the entire loop. Let's reverse it. And let's just do a little more non-linear windowing to wrap things up. And I want to stay in that general territory, so I'm going to use the onboard encoder so that we don't jump to a different point.